Your art career doesn't fit. Stop contact. The heart icon from my brother Chester served as the co-signature. They thought they were firing their black sheep. They forgot the black sheep was their secret investor, and I always settle my accounts. I didn't cry. I didn't text back why. I didn't even feel that hot, familiar sting of anger. This time, it was cold. It was clinical. I put my phone down, the screen still glowing with my brother's casual cruelty. I walked over to my desk and opened my laptop. The time on the screen read 11:52 p.m. I logged into my bank account. My finances are meticulously organized. I'm a glass artist. I have to be. Every pound is tracked, especially the pounds that were flowing out to them. I clicked on the Standing Orders tab, and there it was, a neat, orderly list of my family's dependencies, my secret investments in their perfect lives. First on the list, Sherman and Inez's mortgage, the monthly payment for their beautiful, sprawling Chelsea townhouse, the house they were too proud for me to be seen in. I clicked the button. A small box popped up. Cancel standing order. Click. Are you sure? Click. Confirmed. Second. Monthly stipend, $2,500 every month on the 1st, sent directly to my brother so he could maintain the lifestyle of a star associate without ever having to touch his actual salary. Click. Canceled. Third. Inez's Amex. Supplementary. My mother, the art curator, loved to use this card for her gallery events and charity luncheons. It was my credit card just with her name on it. Click. Payment stopped. Card frozen. Chester's car insurance. The policy premium for his gleaming new BMW. Click. Canceled. Effective immediately. I stared at the screen for a moment. I looked at the clock in the corner. It was 12:03 a.m. It took me 12 minutes. 12 minutes to dismantle the entire financial scaffolding that I had secretly built under my family for the last 2 years. I rubbed my eyes, trying to summon the familiar ache of regret, the guilt, but there was nothing. There was only clarity. This wasn't a breakdown. It was a balance sheet. This wasn't revenge. It was accounting. I closed the laptop. The flat was silent again, but this time, the silence felt different. It felt solid. It felt like mine. To understand why 12 minutes was all it took, you have to understand my family. We weren't just a family. We were a performance. We lived in London in one of those beautiful, suffocatingly elegant townhouses in Chelsea. We weren't just wealthy. We were old money academics. My father, Sherman, was a tenured law professor at Oxford, a man who spoke in footnotes and believed everyone else was just less. My mother, Inez, was an art curator, a woman who could appraise a 17th century painting but couldn't see the value in her own daughter. And then there was my brother, Chester. Chester was the golden child. He was the star, the brilliant, shining future of our family's legacy. He had followed my father's path, graduating from the same university. The walls of my parents' living room were covered in framed articles from the law journal with his name on them, displayed like holy relics. He was their perfect reflection. And I was the scapegoat. I was the artist, the disappointment, the glass blower. To them, my work wasn't a career. It was a craft, a hobby, something messy you do with your hands, not your mind. When I had my first gallery show, my mother sniffed and said the lighting was adequate. When Chester was called to the bar, they threw a party that cost more than my entire studio. But like most performances, the glittering facade of our family was hiding a deep structural rot. They were living far beyond their means. The professorship and the curator's salary couldn't keep up with the Chelsea lifestyle, the charity galas, the European holidays, or Chester's BMW. They were drowning in debt. And for the past 2 years, I had been their secret, silent lifeguard. You see, while my art was a hobby to them, it was a very, very profitable hobby. My glass sculptures, the ones they found quaint, were selling to collectors in New York and Paris for tens of thousands of pounds. While they were busy polishing Chester's trophies, I was quietly building an empire. I was the invisible sponsor of their entire lives. That mortgage payment for the Chelsea house, I'd been paying it for 24 months, ever since my father quietly forgot to mention they were facing repossession. That $2,500 a month stipend Chester received, that allowance to maintain his lifestyle, that came directly from me. He thought it was a trust fund. In a way it was. He was trusting, and I was funding. I had been the silent investor in the stage play of their success. My love, my desire to be seen, had been treated like a subscription service, and I was the only one footing the bill. They hadn't just disowned their daughter, they had just fired their bank. And the first rule of business is that the bank always comes to collect. I slept for the first time in years. I slept without the anxious buzz of waiting for the next passive-aggressive text, the next urgent request for money, the next reminder of my inadequacy. I woke up at 7 a.m. to the sound of my phone vibrating itself off the nightstand. It wasn't a single buzz. It was a sustained, hysterical earthquake. 10 missed calls from my father, Sherman. 8 from my mother, Inez. 5 texts, all in capital letters. I picked up the phone and opened the first voicemail from my mother. Her voice wasn't apologetic. It wasn't sad. It was furious. The shrill, aristocratic panic of someone whose conveniences have been threatened. Ollie, I don't know what kind of childish game you're playing, but you've created a massive mess. The bank called Sherman this morning about the mortgage. You have embarrassed this family. You need to call us and fix this immediately. Not why did we hurt you, but fix the consequences of our actions. Then a text from my father. Your mother's card was declined at the caterer. Whatever point you're trying to make, you've made it. Turn it back on now. But the final message, the one that sealed it, was from Chester, my brother, the one who had hearted my execution. I don't know what Mum said to you, but you're seriously overreacting. You're hurting my career. You're making me look bad. Just turn the stipend back on. We can talk about this at Christmas. Oh, right. Well, just fix it anyway. They weren't shocked that they had done something cruel. They were shocked that I had finally stopped playing along. They weren't angry at their own behavior. They were angry that their punching bag had just hit back. And that's when I finally understood it wasn't just favoritism. It was a system. Psychologists call it the golden child and scapegoat syndrome. It's the core operating system for a narcissistic family. In this system, one child, the golden child, is chosen to be the container for all the parents' hopes, their dreams, their vision of perfection. Chester wasn't a person to them. He was a project. His law degree was their law degree. His success was their validation. He was their perfect, shining reflection. But a narcissist can't have a reflection without also casting a shadow. And that's where the scapegoat comes in. I was the scapegoat. I was the container for everything else. Their failures, their insecurities, their disappointments, their mess. My hobby art career, my independence, my refusal to be like them. It was all proof that I was the broken one, not them. This system needs both puppets to function. The golden puppet who gets all the praise and the black puppet who gets all the blame. It was never about me. It was never about Chester. It was about their desperate need to see themselves as perfect. I looked at the furious, demanding texts on my phone. They weren't messages from a family. They were error messages from a broken system. The cash machine was offline. The scapegoat had walked off the stage, and I knew exactly what I had to do next. I didn't text them back. I didn't call. I blocked all of them. My father, my mother, my brother. Then I opened my contacts and found the one name I knew I could trust, the other failure in the family, my mother's sister. I pressed the button and listened to it ring. "Aunt Myra," I said, my voice steady. "I need your help." Aunt Myra picked up on the second ring. Her voice was like gravel and expensive whiskey. "Ollie, it's about time you called." Aunt Myra was the family's original black sheep, my mother's sister. While my mother, Inez, had married into the academic old money of the Shermans family, Myra had run off to become a sculptor. She was the first failure. I was just the sequel. We hadn't spoken in months, but she was the only one who ever saw the real me. "You saw the messages then?" I said. My voice was steady. Darling, she scoffed, I left that toxic group chat in 2012, but I know my sister. Let me guess. You finally stopped paying for something and they're acting like you just burned down the British Library. I took a breath. They disowned me. Inez sent a text at midnight. There was a long pause on the line, not a pause of sympathy. It was a pause I recognized. It was the sound of a furnace igniting. Good, she said finally. Her voice was suddenly sharp, all the gravel gone, replaced by steel. It's about time you left the cult. Now what did you do? I canceled everything, I said. The mortgage, Chester's stipend, the Amex. How much were you paying them, Ollie? Total. I opened the spreadsheet I kept, the one I'd been staring at for 2 years. I've paid just over $120,000 in the last 24 months, not counting the credit card. Another pause. This one was shorter. Okay, she said. Okay, this is what we're going to do. This isn't a family dispute anymore. This is a financial recovery operation. My friend Perry is a forensic accountant and the most ruthless financial lawyer in London. I'm sending you his number. You're going to call him. You're going to send him that spreadsheet. And you are not going to speak to your parents or Chester again. Do you understand me? Not a word. Myra, I just want to be free. I don't know if I want to... Ollie. She cut me off, her voice cold. They didn't just take your money. They took your dignity. We're not just cutting them off. We are collecting. They built their reputations on your silence and your hobby. It's time to show them what your hobby is really worth. I met with Perry 2 days later. He was exactly as Myra had described. He wore a $2,500 suit and had the eyes of a shark. He looked at my spreadsheet, then at the printouts of the texts from Chester and my parents. He didn't see family drama. He saw leverage. This is remarkably clean, he said, tapping the spreadsheet. You have bank-to-bank transfers for the mortgage and the stipend. We can absolutely classify these as undocumented demand-based loans. The texts from your father and brother demanding you turn them back on are a gift. It establishes a pattern of expectation and reliance. He leaned back. So, we send a formal demand letter. We request a repayment plan be initiated within 30 days for the full $120,000 plus interest. If they fail to respond, we file a civil suit and place a lien on the Chelsea house. I nodded. Okay, let's do it. This wasn't about the money anymore. It was about the principle. It was about the accounting. The demand letter was drafted that afternoon. It was calm. It was factual. It was lethal. It was sent via recorded delivery to my parents' house and to Chester's law firm. And then we waited. The silence from their side was immediate and absolute. The angry texts stopped. The voicemails stopped. But a week later, I got a call from Perry. His voice was different. It wasn't calm and confident anymore. It was excited. Ollie, he said, I'm glad you came to us. I was doing due diligence on your family's assets just in case we had to file the lien, and I found something else, something much, much bigger. Perry? What do you mean bigger? I asked. My stomach, which had been so calm, gave a single hard knot. I mean criminal, Ollie, he said. His voice was sharp. While doing a deep dive on your parents' financials to see where the money for a lien would come from, I pulled your maternal grandparents' probate records, just on a hunch. He paused. They set up a trust fund for you, not a big one, but significant, $150,000. It was to be dispersed to you and only you on your 25th birthday. I just stood there, my phone getting cold against my ear. Perry, that's impossible. I never received that. I would know. Oh, you received it, he said. His voice was grim. Well, received isn't the right word. The trust was emptied. The entire $150,000 was withdrawn in one lump sum exactly 1 week after your 25th birthday. But how? I whispered. I never signed anything. I never even knew it existed. You did sign something, Perry said. Or at least Ollie signed something. I have a copy of the bank's withdrawal directive. The signature on it. Ollie, it's not even a good forgery. They just scribbled your name and the bank, likely because of your father's reputation, just rubber stamped it. My mind flashed back. My 25th birthday. I'd been struggling, trying to get my studio off the ground. About a week after, my mother and father had sat me down. They looked so proud. "We have wonderful news," my mother, Inez, had chirped. "That little art competition you entered, you won a $4,000 prize." I remembered being confused. I hadn't entered a competition, but they presented me with a banker's draft for $4,000. I was so grateful, so desperate for their approval, that I just cried and thanked them. I thought they had finally seen me. "Perry," I said, my voice barely audible. "They gave me $4,000. They told me it was an art prize I had won." There was a dead silence on the line. Perry let out a long, slow breath. "My God," he said. "They didn't just steal from you, they laundered you. They took your $150,000 inheritance, gave you $4,000 of it as a prize to silence you, and kept the rest." "But for what?" I asked, the coldness spreading from my stomach up into my chest. "I already know," Perry said. I cross-referenced the dates. The withdrawal of the remaining funds matches to the day the final tuition and housing payment for Chester's last year at Oxford. They didn't just pay for his education, they paid for it with your future. I hung up with Perry and immediately called Aunt Myra. I told her everything, my voice shaking now, not with sadness, but with a pure, white-hot, clinical rage. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Ollie, your grandparents, my parents, they set that trust up specifically for you. They told me about it before they passed. They knew what Sherman was like. They knew what my sister, your mother, had become." Her voice cracked just once. "Your father, Sherman, he did the same thing to me. When I wanted to open my first sculpting studio, he told my parents I was unstable, that I'd waste the family money. He tried to have me cut out. My parents didn't listen to him. Thank God." She took a shaky breath. "But he didn't learn his lesson. He just got smarter. He couldn't stop them from leaving you the money. So he just stole it. He stole your inheritance to finish polishing his golden boy. This is the final straw, Ollie. This isn't just accounting anymore. This is a crime, and they will pay for it." The new demand letter, the one that added $150,000 of bank fraud to the $120,000 of debt, was sent. And this time, the silence that followed was different. It wasn't arrogant. It was terrified. 3 days later, I was in my basement studio sketching a new design when I heard a frantic pounding on the street-level door. It wasn't a knock. It was a desperate, angry drumming. I went up and through the reinforced glass. I saw them. My mother, Inez, and my brother, Chester. They looked ruined. My mother's perfectly curated art gala hair was a mess, her eyes red and puffy. Chester, the golden boy, looked pale and sick, his suit rumpled. I unlocked the door but didn't open it all the way. I just stood there. "Ollie, thank God." My mother lunged forward, trying to push inside, but I didn't budge. "Ollie, you have to stop this. You have to call off your lawyer." I just looked at her. "They're going to ruin us," she shrieked, her voice cracking. "Your father, they're talking about fraud, Ollie, criminal charges. Sherman could lose his tenure. You'll destroy this entire family over a little bit of money." "A little bit of money?" I said. My voice was quiet, and that seemed to scare them more than if I had yelled. $150,000 isn't a little bit of money. It was my inheritance. "We were going to pay you back," Chester suddenly shouted, finding his voice. "It was just, we needed it for my tuition. You were just making glass in a basement. We were building a legacy. You don't understand the pressure." "I don't?" I asked. "I don't understand pressure? I paid your rent for 2 years." "You have to stop this," my mother pleaded, grabbing my arm. The tears were real now, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of fear. "They're going to take the house, Ollie. Chester, they're going to have him struck off. His career will be over. Please, Ollie, do something. You owe us. After everything we've given you." That was it. That was the line. "You owe us." My compassion, the deep well they had been draining my entire life, finally ran dry. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel sadness. I felt nothing, just the cold, clean feeling of a transaction finally being closed. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the business card Perry had given me, and handed it to my mother. "I don't owe you anything," I said. "You should talk to my lawyer." I closed the door gently in their faces. I heard my mother let out a scream, a raw animal sound I'd never heard before. I heard Chester pounding on the door, yelling. I went downstairs to my studio, put on my noise-canceling headphones, and got back to work. The lawsuit was settled out of court. It was a complete and total victory. The Chelsea townhouse was sold at auction to pay the $120,000 I was owed and the $150,000 they had stolen. My father, Sherman, was forced into early retirement to avoid a public fraud investigation. Chester was formally suspended by the bar for financial misconduct. They moved, I heard, to a small rental flat somewhere outside the city. I took the money, all of it. The money from the settlement and the money I had been saving for years. And I bought the one thing I had always dreamed of. It was an old lighthouse keeper's cottage on the Cornish coast. It had a small, sturdy house and a big, beautiful outbuilding with huge windows facing the ocean. I called Aunt Myra. "How would you like to share a studio?" I asked. Today I'm standing in that studio. The furnaces are roaring. Aunt Myra is working on a massive bronze sculpture, and I'm pulling a new piece of molten glass the color of the sea just outside. We call it the Coastal Glass Studio. It's a gallery, a workshop, and a home. My parents and Chester still post things on social media sometimes. I'm not blocked anymore, but I don't look. I don't care. People sometimes talk about the sacred bond of family. They talk about how blood is thicker than water, but they never talk about what happens when that blood is toxic. They don't tell you about the guilt you feel for walking away, even when you know it's the only way to survive. There's a strange peace in letting go, in accepting that the family you were given isn't the family you have to keep. True belonging isn't something you beg for. It's something you build. It's here in the sound of the ocean, in the heat of the fire, and in the quiet, steady presence of the one person who saw me for who I was. I didn't lose a family. I just finally stopped paying for a performance, and I built my own.